So yesterday we reported on the show that the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant, which is a terrorist group so extreme that Al-Qaeda has disowned them, has taken over wide portions of Iraq. Mosul, gone. That's the second largest city in Iraq. Tikrit, gone. Fallujah, gone. Actually, they're now also taking more and more cities. We told you about the largest oil refinery in Iraq. Now, Iraqi officials claim they still have it. The rebels claim that they're in control of it. But now they're emboldened and about to go a whole nother level. And in fact, as they accrue victories, they start to accrue allies. So it turns out it's not just them. Let me show you a list of the other people that are now involved in this fight on their side. You also got a group that I honestly had not heard of before, and I followed this stuff pretty closely. Army of the Men of the Naqshbandi Order. They have apparently joined the fight, and the Iraqi resistance group. Now, Izzat Ibrahim al-Duri is important. He's with the Naqshbandi Order, but he's also important because he was a deputy to Saddam Hussein. We have actually not been able to find him since 2003. He has reemerged as they take places like Saddam Hussein's former hometown, Tikrit. So now these guys are Sunnis. They're fighting against the Shiite government in Iraq, certainly based in Baghdad. We can't really say all of Iraq anymore because they've taken huge portions of Iraq here. So Saddam Sunnis, they're back, but they're much worse than before. We came in there pretending there was Al-Qaeda in Iraq when there was none. Now, Al-Qaeda's not in Iraq. A group so radical, Al-Qaeda rejected them. That's who's in Iraq now. Brilliant move on our part to invade that country and stir up this hornet's nest. All right. Now, they have made a statement, the Islamic State. They say, people, you have tried secular regimes. This is now the era of the Islamic State. Okay, that sounds lovely. If you think that sounds bad, wait till you get a load of this. They say the Islamic State issued a triumphalist statement declaring that it would start implementing its strict version of Sharia law in Mosul and other regions it had overrun. It said women should stay in their homes for modesty reasons, warned that it would cut off the hands of thieves, and told residents to attend daily prayers. It told Sunnis in the military and police to abandon their posts and repent or else face only death. Well, are they not merciful? You're only going to get death. Actually, in Iraq, it could be worse. So let me show you the degree to which they have seized territory in Iraq. Now, look at this. Mosul's all the way up in the north. Tikrit is obviously far to the south of that, but then they have Fallujah, which is further south than that. So that's a huge section of Iraq. And if you notice, Fallujah, not that far from Baghdad. Now, we're going to get back to that in a second because disaster is impending there. So, first of all, let me tell you what they've captured in the areas that they have taken over. Associated Press reports, they said that ISIL, that's the short term for the group, fighters managed to take control of two big weapons depots holding some 400,000 items, including AK-47 rifles, rockets and rocket-propelled grenades, artillery shells, and mortars. Not only do they win the territory, but they get all this booty. When they get in there, they're like, oh, the idiots ran and left all their weapons behind. But it gets worse. What else did they leave behind? U.S.-made weapons and armored Humvees, aircraft from the airport that it captured, freed all the detainees that they held in the Mosul's prisons, so now their forces are significantly larger because all those prisoners that were a part of their group and some that were not part of their group are now once again part of their group, so their group is substantially larger, and $400 million from the banks of Mosul. So now they have a ton of money to buy new weaponry. They now have an air force, and they have U.S.-made armored Humvees and other weaponry. Abandoning their posts and running from Mosul was a disaster for the Iraqi army. We'll get to why they did that in a second. By the way, those great soldiers in the Iraqi army, didn't we train those guys? I thought we spent years and years training the Iraqi army. Both Bush and Obama declared it a huge success. You know how much money we spent training the Iraqi army? $20 billion. Yeah, that seems like a really good investment. Okay, now, let me tell you what's happening on the ground. Let's go to The Guardian and how the battle ensued in Mosul. Iraqi officials told The Guardian that 2 divisions of Iraqi soldiers, roughly 30,000 men, simply turned and ran in the face of the assault by an insurgent force of just 800 fighters. It's like out of the movie 300. They're going to have to rename it 800. Okay, now you're going to say, oh my God, that's the worst equipped army you've ever seen, and what cowards, etc. Of course, there's truth in that, looking at the numbers. But actually, it's not quite that simple. I'm going to tell you why they ran in a second. And it connects to why we should have never invaded Iraq in the first place. But let me give you more details first. The Iraqi army outnumbered ISIS, this is according to the box, by about 40-1 in Mosul. Yet the army still turned tail and ran. Ran so fast, in fact, as to leave some of their tanks and helicopters behind. Okay, and we showed you yesterday a picture. They literally stripped off their uniforms and left them on the side of the highway. I mean, what a disaster, right? So why? Why did they run? So let's go to box. Despite the United States spending billions of dollars training the Iraqi army before the American withdrawal at the end of 2011, the Iraqi army is chronically unable to fight like a professional military. So one of the problems is that they're not professional. Now, but the real problem is that they're not professional because they're not motivated. That gets to point number 2. Soldiers have been deserting in large numbers for some time. In Mosul, soldiers didn't run because they were doomed to defeat at the hands of a much smaller ISIS force. They ran because they didn't want to fight. Bingo, there it is. Now that's what we've been saying on the Young Turks for 12 years. Now there are Sunnis in the Iraqi army. They're not going to fight fellow Sunnis in Mosul. They're not going to do that because they care more about their particular sect than they do about Iraq. Iraq's an artificial country. It was drawn up by the British. The Sunnis aren't going to fight fellow Sunnis. And then the Shia that's in the Iraqi army, they're like, Mosul? I don't live in Mosul. I mean, I got sent here. You come down to Karbala and we're going to have a fight. You come to Baghdad and we're going to have a bloodbath. But you can take Tikrit all day long. Sunnis live there. I don't give a damn about that. You come after those guys and all 30,000 will run because they don't care about those cities. Fallujah is a Sunni city. The Shias aren't going to fight for it. You can pay them all the money in the world. You can spend $20 billion training them. They're not going to fight. They ran from 800 guys and left everything behind. And those 800 guys, of course, now no longer 800 guys, much larger. Iraqi officials have already privately asked the U.S. to consider sending in drones to root out jihadists from the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, who in a lightning offensive have seized the Swaths of the north. Now, just by the way, it's both called ISIS and ISIL, depending on the source that you're looking at. But here, the Iraqis are like, okay, panic button, America, send in the drones! Yeah, that'll help a lot. Because when you turn the local population against the government even further by having them use the U.S. government to do drone strikes, which often kill civilians, no, that won't turn the local population at all. We had a whole war there. We stayed there for about a decade, and that didn't help at all. You think bringing Americans and military strikes again is going to fix the situation? You're not paying any attention at all. So, by the way, among the great things that we already gave the Iraqi government, why don't you use this, guys? Why do you need our air power? We already gave you 24 Apache helicopters to Baghdad in this January, 300 anti-tank Hellfire missiles, 2 of some of the 36 F-16 fighter aircraft that we gave them. So you've got plenty of weaponry. You've got your Air Force. Use them. Okay. Now, they might need them because it's not that they just lost a huge portion of the country. Turns out the Islamic State is coming to Baghdad. The spokesperson says, we will march toward Baghdad because we have an account to settle there. Whew. Apparently, the Islamic State would like to send their regards. Oof. Now, the Shia are not going to fight in Sunni territory, but if you come to Baghdad, they're going to fight. And that's going to be much worse. And then the army, they just get paid. They don't give a damn. See, in all these wars throughout history, you actually need people to give a damn if they're fighting. Otherwise, they'll run. They're not interested in losing their lives for a cause they don't believe in, okay? But what's going to happen if they come to Baghdad and other Shia territory, and Baghdad is mixed, but when you go further south from Baghdad, it's all Shia territory. Then we're going to get a revisit from Muqtada al-Sadr and the Mahdi army. Now, those guys are Shia, and they're going to say, oh, you want to come down to our place? Come and get some. Now, I hope to God that doesn't happen, okay? Because if it does, you're going to see a civil war that's going to make Syria look like child's play. Okay. Now, we saw at the beginning of the civil war back in 2006. You remember when it was a disaster and we were in the middle of it? That was just warm up, man. If they go to Baghdad, oh, it's going to be horrible. Okay. Now, they explain that militants also attacked an Iraqi security checkpoint in Tarmiya. That's just 31 miles north of Baghdad, killing 5 troops and wounding 9, according to officials. They're about 30 miles from Baghdad. Okay, further disaster. Associated Press reports the involvement of Saddam-era figures raises the potential to escalate militants' campaign to establish an al-Qaeda-like enclave into a wider Sunni uprising that could only further the momentum toward turning Iraq's sectarian and ethnic divisions into geographical fragmentation. Now, so basically what they're saying is they're going to take the Sunni territory and they're going to say this is ours. But not just Sunni territory in Iraq, but also in Syria. They even have aspirations for Sunni territory in Lebanon and Jordan. If you thought civil wars in these individual countries were bad, wait till you have civil wars across the Middle East. Wait till you have a Sunni-Shia war that envelops the entire region. Okay, we're just that invasion of Iraq, what a brilliant idea! Let's just stir that all up and let's get those old Sunni-Shia hatred going again, and we can start the biggest bloodbath anybody's ever seen. Okay, now, there is one possible solution that arises out of that quote, though, which is, for God's sake, do what we told you. How many years ago? I have it on tape, which you're about to see, 8 years ago, but I've been saying it for almost 12 years. Split up Iraq. Iraq was never meant to be. Give the Kurds their Kurdish territory in the north, give the Sunnis the Sunni territory and the Shia territory. Split them up and do it immediately before the war gets wider. I mean, it's already in Syria. If it goes to Lebanon and Jordan, you're never going to be able to control it. There are natural enclaves there. Split it up already. Okay. But no. I was told, no, you don't understand. America can keep Iraq together. It's going to be a success and it's going to be a democracy. How's that turning out? And now, to further buttress my point, listen to this. In the north, Kurdish security forces took over an air base and other posts abandoned by the Iraqi military and ethnically mixed Kirkuk. A senior official with the Kurdish forces said he denied they had taken over the oil-rich city. In other words, there you go. The Kurds are like, yeah. Up in the north, we got a Peshmerga, and that's up to 250,000 soldiers that the Kurds have in northern Iraq. They're like, that Islamic State, the Sunnis, if they come here, we got a way of dealing with them. Now, the Kurds, I know it gets complicated, but the Kurds are also Sunni, but they're Kurdish ethnically. The Sunni we're talking about are Arabs, okay? So the Kurds are saying, you're not coming in our territory. If you do, we're going to handle you. But now they don't need the southern half of Iraq at all. They already have oil-rich cities. Kiss them goodnight. Bye-bye, they're gone. The Kurds are gone. They're going to start their own state. It's only a matter of time. It's not if, it's when. Okay, so now, like I said, if only someone had said to do this 8 years ago, how much bloodshed could we have saved? Watch this.
There's no debate about it anymore. Before, we pose it as something that is the likely answer, but we should consider it. We should have committees on it, etc. We should have a discussion over it. No more discussion. You got to split up the Shiites and the Sunnis and the Kurds right away. You had to do it 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, but you have to do it right now. You got to split up the country. There's no ands, ifs, or buts.
Now, look, I said that then because the other option was let them split it up naturally. The way you do it naturally is you fight until everyone is tired of dying. And then you go, okay, the Shia can't get the Sunni area, the Sunni can't get the Shia area, we'll split up the country. Okay? Now, in fact, in the later part of that discussion, you'll see why I said we have to do it.
And we're going to work with Iran, Syria, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, everybody else in the region to make sure that we get all the help we can in trying to control now what is now almost uncontrollable forces on the ground in Iraq, because we need every Sunni to put pressure on the Sunnis in Iraq, and we need every Shiite in the world to put pressure on the Shiites in Iraq to make sure that they split up in a way that is not amicable, because it's not going to be amicable, but that does the least amount of damage, that is the lesser of all evils in Iraq.
If we had done that back then, we avoided countless amount of damage, countless American lives, countless Iraqi lives. But nope, nope, nope. Everybody's got ego and pride, and they say, no, we're going to keep Iraq together because we drew that map after one of the wars, and then it's going to stay that way forever, when it makes no sense at all. People will organically go to what does make sense. They will, unfortunately in this case, go to their sects. Maybe we could have kept it together. We never invaded in the first place. But once you stirred up the hornet's nest, you were never going to put the hornets back in the nest. And in fact, now security experts like Bruce Riedel say this. This is today. It's a point of how do we minimize our losses and live with what might be rapidly developing as a de facto partition of Iraq between a Sunni extremist state and a Shiite state. Look, this is not time for I told you so's, etc. What I'm telling you is the reason we knew this 8 years ago, and the reason now the security experts are coming around to it, is because it makes sense. And if you try to stop things that make sense, all you're going to get is blood. By the way, the one other guy who should get credit here, a guy who could actually make a difference, unlike me, is Joe Biden, who suggested splitting up Iraq. And everybody's like, oh, Joe Biden, you're crazy, man. That doesn't make any sense. That's radical. They're going to split themselves up anyway. The question is, how many lives are we going to lose in the process?